David Cochrane here from the CBC going head-to-head with Andrew Scheer. He's the Conservative House Leader in the House of Commons. Let's take a peek. Andrew Scheer is really funny, pretty smart. David Cochrane is the opposite of both of those. Let's take a peek at where this one goes.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
A high-stakes trade meeting for Canada tomorrow as Prime Minister Mark Carney is headed to Washington to meet with U.S. President Donald Trump. While Canadians try to temper expectations, some government sources have told CBC and Radio-Canada that they are cautiously optimistic about some steel tariff relief out of the meeting. But the uncertainty of negotiating with Trump remains a big concern.
You never know what comes out of a meeting with President Trump. He'll say one thing one day and change his mind the next day. Again, we need certainty. We need certainty for our economies. Hopefully they can come out with a great deal, a fair trade deal for both sides of the border. And I'm confident that the Prime Minister is going to go in there and do a great job. He's a smart business person.
Well, here in Ottawa, Conservative leader Pierre sees it differently. On the other hand, he says Canada needs to stop losing to the United States. Well, to talk about that, Conservative House Leader Andrew Scheer joins me now in the studio. Andrew Scheer, good to see you. Thanks for being here, sir.
Thanks for having me.
No more losing, says your party leader. What does a win look like tomorrow for Mark Carney?
Well, we believe it's fair to hold Mark Carney to the promise that he made Canadians during the election campaign. He asked Canadians to ignore the 10 years of Liberal policies that caused inflation, that caused a crime crisis, that caused a cost of living crisis. He asked Canadians to ignore all that, and in return, he would get a win with Trump. His exact quote was he was going to negotiate a win. He said he'd have a deal by July 21st. Here we are in October. Right. Still hasn't gotten anything. So what we're expecting is that he comes back from Washington with an end to tariffs. That's what he promised Canadians that he would do, and that's the bar that he set for himself.
But he said, this is the quote provided by the opposition office. It was June 4th, 2025 in the House of Commons. We need to negotiate with the Americans. These negotiations are taking place at a very sensitive time, but we are going to win. And then he wanted to say, and so are the Edmonton Oilers, which was not the case, unfortunately. But he says, we are going to win. Now, does that mean getting tariffs all the way down to zero? Is that the only standard for a win? Because things have happened since the election that have kind of changed the whole context around this relationship.
Yeah, but that was the deal he made Canadians when they were making up their mind to vote. So I think it's fair to hold him to that standard. This isn't a standard that Conservatives imposed upon him or that even political pundits have. He went to the Canadian people during an election, said he would get a win. I've got a ton of quotes here where he was talking about winning, that he's a good negotiator. We're going to win. He said that in April.
Sure.
Keep our tariffs on until the Americans show us respect. I mean, he backed away from that. He unilaterally dropped counter tariffs quietly and got nothing in return. So what we're hoping that he does is that he just simply fulfills the promise that he made to Canadians that he would get these tariffs dealt with, that he would get them lifted. Right. And we're hearing that he may have a deal on steel. We hope that it's a comprehensive deal on steel, that for the sake of those workers, that all tariffs on steel are lifted. And we hope that he's going to come back with the same type of deal for every other Canadian good that we sell to the United States.
Well, he said we would keep the counter tariffs on until they show us respect. And I think you can make the argument that things have evolved, certainly in the leader-to-leader relationship with Mark Carney and Donald Trump than it was with Donald Trump and Justin Trudeau, right? I think we're in a much better place, at least on the Prime Minister to President one-on-one. Do you not agree?
Well, I mean, the fact that they may be having more pleasant conversations doesn't do any good to the Canadians who have seen tariffs actually increased on a lot of goods. I mean, we're seeing some just devastating job losses. 86,000 Canadians have lost their jobs since Mark Carney has become Prime Minister. So it doesn't really matter if the flavor of the conversations are more cordial than they might have been with Justin Trudeau. Tariffs are higher today than they were when Mark Carney.
But isn't that key to getting a deal with Donald Trump, having the relationship? Like we don't know where it's going to go, and I appreciate the politics of this, right? He ran on this campaign and he made a core to his election in April. But if you don't find a way to work with Donald Trump, it goes even further sideways, even faster, does it not? I mean, that's the experience, it seems.
Well, look, I mean, it's just a matter of the fact that it's actually worse off today than it was. So that's my point, is that whatever he thinks he might be doing in terms of style or approach, it's not resulting in lower tariffs. Other countries have seen their exports going up. Mexico has actually increased the amount that it exports into the United States. Clearly, Mark Carney is not doing the types of things that other countries are doing to get a better deal. And the other thing that's quite bizarre about the the liberal spin on this is that they simultaneously blame U.S. tariffs for all the woes that are facing the Canadian economy. They accept no responsibility for the fact that they're keeping the industrial carbon tax, that they're keeping the production cap, that they're keeping a lot of the tax hikes that Justin Trudeau imposed upon Canadians. They're blaming all of that on U.S. tariffs. And then when we point out that they haven't gotten a deal on U.S. tariffs, they say, well, Canada has the best deal in the world and a lot of Canadian goods aren't even affected by these tariffs. So which is it? You know, is
both
the Canadian economy
both of those
suffering?
things can be true. You can have a better deal than most countries with the United States and still a worse deal than you had at the beginning of the year and than you had on election day, because it is those key sectors that are getting hammered by the Section 232 tariffs of steel, aluminum, there's lumber, there's
But that
copper,
doesn't explain
there's
why
auto.
countries like Mexico have actually seen an increase in their exports. And it also isn't what Mark Carney promised. And you're right. Both things can be true. It can absolutely be the case that Mark Carney's failure to get a deal is a big part of the hardship facing Canadians or the suffering the Canadians are going through. And also true that keeping the production cap, keeping those Trudeau tax hikes, and keeping the industrial carbon tax are also killing jobs. So you're right. Both of Carney's failures can be attributed to the hardship.
That's not quite what I was saying, but I take your point. But look, Mexico, the structure of their trade with the U.S. is different than the structure of Canadian trade with the U.S. It's a lot of low-cost goods going in. So, I mean, you know, I'd have to dig into the numbers to see why it is different. But they're both kind of in the same starting point that this, well, no.
Well, you have to dig into the numbers to defend the Liberal failures on this.
No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. It's not what the audience at home is hearing me say. I don't know the numbers on Mexican
Mark Carney
trade.
came on all kinds of CBC shows where he was talking about the fact that he was a master negotiator. He's going to get a win for Canadian. He's the guy you hire in a crisis. Elbows up all the time, he said. Here we are in October. 86,000 Canadians are wondering how they're going to pay their mortgage because they've lost their jobs. He hasn't got a deal on U.S. tariffs. He hasn't repealed the Liberal legislation that imposes all kinds of costs on Canadian manufacturers and Canadian job creators. I mean, the industrial carbon tax is a massive cost to do business here in Canada. Mark Carney has said he's going to keep it. The production cap chases away billions of dollars of investment. TC Energy announced $8.5.
All right. Well, I'm pretty sure that I'm on mic now. So before we get into the show, I am very fed up with this stuff. I don't know if it's a healthy decision for me. I know everybody is taking their health into account in any situation that they should be getting into. But I am so fed up with this. It gives me a little bit of financial reward, but watching this stuff, and it pollutes my own mind. I start trying to figure out how could these corrupt politicians, and most of them are corrupt. I'm not talking about one side. Very many of the sides, and there's not that many of the sides, are corrupt. However, we're being misled down a very darkened path by this carnage government that, if you do pay attention, it's heartbreaking, because most people want to care about kids. And most people want there to be no poverty, but that's not the way of the goddamn world. That it just isn't. And the UN sided with the WEF in 2019. They signed a contract. You can find that out very quickly online. But that's kind of where it started falling apart, was right before the pandemic, which was when the UN signed up with the WEF to push ahead these 17 agendas that every country on the planet supports. Every single country. How could that possibly be that every single country on the planet agrees with emotion? It's corrupt. Anyways, we'll back it up, but the UN straight up is corrupt. And you can see who backs up that corruption. Even though a country may not like, for example, the United States backs up the United Nations. They back them up, like their vote that they get, 2 votes that they get are trumped by Trump's own vote. Like, he cannot agree with what the UN is doing. And if you really paid attention, nor would you agree, like the people that watch here, the people that I want to watch here, I don't think that you would agree with the UN if you understood what it's really about. Maybe you do. Some people do. A lot of people don't. They think it's all for like United Nations. No, it's not. It's for big business to overcome the obstacles of tiny business. And that is what they do. And they fool the rest of the world into thinking like, oh, we want universal health care and no more poverty and feed the starving kids. I don't want to see kids with flies on their faces either, but that was all a prop. Like, it all was. They've been duping us for a long time. This isn't the first time that, well, I suppose it is the first time that we faced a challenge like the one we're facing now. But don't confuse my words when I say that this is the very ultimate battle that we're going to have to face. Like Carney and his stooges of whoever they are, like, and they're following him or he was ahead of them or whatever. He came before Trudeau, right? Like, he was testifying to his bullshit in committee in 2013. Like, I've got that. I could show it. So he's been around much longer. And before he destroyed the United Kingdom through their bank, which is the way they're going to get us to, they're going to get us to give out more money than we can ever possibly pay back. Your great-grandchildren won't be able to pay them back. Sorry, that's a longer rant than I usually go on. But heed the cause, guys. Maybe I'm a crazy person. I don't think so. When I started this, I was like, I wonder what's going on. And now I feel like I know. I've spent hundreds of hours a week researching this and watching. I used to just watch podcasts like in my spare time, but now I focus on this. And I don't think all the conservatives are good. Probably half of them are miserable. Like, I get emails from people saying, like, well, he's a bad MP, actually. I've sent him letters. I've never heard a response. I hear that. I believe it. However, there is a bigger picture here, and they are trying to sink this ship that we had going so steady for 125 years, 150 years, going very straight, and now it all seems to be falling apart. And that can't just be a coincidence. Look into Mark Carney, man. Look at how evil. And when I say evil, like, he's got bad intentions for your grandchildren's future. And they can shut me down. They can do whatever in the hell they want. I don't mind. That's fine. I worked really hard on this. I understand. I can be unplugged in an instant. And that is their plan. To have me demonetized, to have my bank account shut down, cell phone access, all of that internet access, wiped out. And that, okay, they can do that. Like, and that'll be, well, not okay by me. I don't know how I'll argue then, but That is their plan to shut you up if you have any idea other than the boat that they've given you to ride in on. And it's a hot dog boat. Like, goodness gracious. I don't know what the solution really is, other than to spread awareness that this is happening to us now in real time. And it's not a fucking joke. Like, they are putting this upon us, whether you pay attention to the news or just the politics, or maybe you watch one channel. Pick up right the hardcore politics. Go right to the stations. Go to CPAC. Go to there's many sites. I'm drawing a blank right now because I'm kind of ranted out. Takes a lot of energy, I guess, to do one of these. It just drives me so crazy that there are so many liberal voters that are defensive of this that don't watch the politics. Because if you watch the politics, it's pretty hard to ignore the lies and the deception that are being spread by that side. Like, again, I'm not a conservative. That's not, I'm a voter. But you get thrown into this lump of people. I'm a critical thinker, believe it or not. Like, when you see this stuff, when you watch it, if you just come in green and you don't have a side, it doesn't take very long to realize that there's no answers and a lot of questions on behalf of one side, and they seem to be counted out of what Canadians have to say because of the weird way our government is set up. It's just hard that way. We've got more to watch. We've got so many videos to watch. I do this stuff. I cover Canadian federal politics. And again, I'm not trying to convince you of the way I think, but convince you that there possibly is another way to think than the way that mass media, the scumbag legacy media. Like, I like Rosie and I'm very disappointed in Vassy all the time because I like those girls. I don't want them to be dishonest journalists, but they're being very dishonest to everybody right now. Like, they're hideous. Rosie, you can see the difference. If you flip back to 2012, 2011, Rosie was a real person back then. So was Vassy. David Cochrane, the cockroach, was probably even a real person back then. But now he's this other stooge that just passes along their bullshit propaganda media. Like, only one side saying they're being journalists. That's the part that sickens me. Like, I've got friends that did journalism, and it's a tough gig by now. Like, I've only got one left that is still trying to be a journalist. Everybody else had to sell out to a channel or whatever. I worked 18 years in the government, and I realize it's the same bullshit all the time. Like, try to get an answer out of anybody. I'm not going to get into my own experience too much because that's a rough go, and I'm not done with those folks yet. They think it's done. There's a lot to cut off there before we're finished. Sort of rant and ramble. I don't do that very often, but I am fed up with this shit that they just keep selling Canadians, and not my audience. I think my audience most of the time is pretty informed, but And I don't mean to be hard on the people that still believe liberal, because there's a lot to factor in there when you're being fooled. Like, if you only watch the CBC, you can be duped by them. They look pleasant, they look clean, they look all right, I guess. And same with CTV, Global, whatever. Even the polished up newspapers look like people you can believe. But if you're not reading like Toronto Sun or National Post or something like that, there's no way to gauge the lies that they're telling. Like, they only tell one side. That's propaganda. And they do it all the time. Like, I do know this. I know that Vas Capellos, like, if I ever saw you, like, in society or whatever, I'd be, like, fan flattered. I'd be like, oh my God, that's Vassy over there. But I would go over and try to say hello and breach into this conversation on why are you doing this now? Because I don't think that financially you're attached to it. Like, and they'll tell you they'll quash your fame. You'd be way more famous now if you left them. Even a chick like, Rosie, like from CBC, I can get on board with you doing your own thing. Like, I can't believe the way you handled when the Prime Minister spoke down to you that way. Like, but I don't think you're bad. And I remember you from before it changed into this woke corporate corruption that we have going on now. And maybe you're worried about your pension. Like, I'm pretty sure that you've put enough time into there that the pension won't change. You'll get the same. Maybe not. Even if not, just quit. Stop doing that. Like, Rosie and Vashi team up, do your own show. That would be a lot more fun than what you're doing now. Like, and dig into the mistakes you made. Something like that. Like, anyhow, this is a long ramble for me. I'm going to cross over into a couple of vids. I think.
Oh, yeah. Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
Mr. Shukevich, you have operated as a key organizer for the longest ballot committee and served as the official agent for many of the candidates affiliated with the longest ballot committee, correct?
That is correct.
And your brother, Kieran Shukevich, also was an organizer with the longest ballot committee, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and I want to ask you some questions about the recruitment of candidates and the collection of nomination signatures for the longest ballot committee. When you and other organizers from the longest ballot committee were collecting signatures, at times electors would have been presented with multiple nomination forms to sign simultaneously.
That's correct.
Okay. And as you went about collecting signatures and recruiting candidates, the longest ballot committee told prospective candidates that they didn't have to worry about collecting signatures because the longest ballot committee already had collected the 100 or more signatures needed for them to get onto the ballot. Isn't that true?
No, that's not true. You have that a little bit backwards. So we recruit candidates, we get all their names, and then we collect signatures for them. We're not like just collecting signatures for people who said they don't want to run.
So I have a video
Okay.
that you posted on YouTube to the longest ballot committee on August 18th, 2024, in respect of the LaSalle-Imard-Verdun by-election, in which you state that if we're going to break the record for the longest ballot, we need everyone to sign up as soon as possible. We've already collected 100 nomination signatures for you. All you have to do is follow the instructions. So, in fact, you and other organizers for the longest ballot committee were going around with nomination forms that didn't have candidates' names on them. Isn't that correct?
That is not correct.
I'm going to stop you there, Mr. Shukevich, because I have a tweet that was posted by the longest ballot committee on January 22nd, 2024, of you, of Kieran, and of I believe, a Glenn McDonald.
Yep.
And when you look more closely, this is you. We see where the candidate's name is on the nomination form with signatures. The candidate's name is blank. So that's precisely what you were doing, was going out and collecting signatures, getting electors to sign blank nomination forms, not candidate nomination forms.
That is not accurate.
Well, I just present you with evidence, documentary evidence, that establishes that, in fact, it is accurate. And I want to caution you, sir, but you're testifying before a parliamentary committee, and you have an obligation to answer my questions fully and truthfully. And if you fail to do so, sir, you can be held in contempt of Parliament. And I want to make clear to you that I will not hesitate in using all of the tools available to hold you accountable should you not provide truthful and accurate answers, which up till now you have not. So I'm going to give you one last opportunity to confirm on the record that you went about collecting signatures from electors where the candidate's name was blank. That's what you did, right?
No, that is not accurate. If you would give me a chance to actually respond, you've made quite a few incorrect assumptions here. Where would you like me to begin? With the AI doctored images or with your misunderstanding of what sign up means? So in that video, when I say sign up, what I'm referring to is that these are candidates who have already expressed that they want to run. We then collected their signatures with the candidate name at the top. Obviously, that's the rule.
Candidate's name was not at the top.
It was at the top. I was there.
Candidate's name was not at the top.
And then when we say we already have your signatures, you need to finish signing up, that is referring to fill out your forms, book an appointment with the returning officer to do your declaration. This is very straightforward. You have it kind of mixed up. If you want to talk about those AI manipulated photos, I'm happy to do so.
I don't have anything mixed up. What I have are
respectfully, you do have that mixed up.
A YouTube video.
If I can for a moment, Mr. Shukevich.
Yeah.
We operate here on a position that members of Parliament are honourable, and to accuse a member of Parliament of doctoring images, I think you should tread very carefully in that. I don't know about these images, but I'm giving you a warning in terms of I don't find it funny, sir. I don't think you should find it funny either. Mr. Cooper is correct in what Parliament can do, and perhaps you don't have respect for the individuals sitting at these chairs. Please have respect for the institution and the electors that put us here. Sorry, Mr. Cooper. I think we stopped at about 30 seconds.
Yeah,
no. We have never collected signatures with blank candidate names. The Chief Electoral Officer has already testified to you that there's no credible evidence of any
Chief Electoral Officer in his testimony said that your committee initially got caught doing precisely just that. That was his testimony.
Respectfully, Mr. Chair, that it was not his testimony. His testimony was that we collected without an identified candidate, which is true. We wrote all candidates were in the candidate field, and we got people to sign. We said, would you be willing to nominate any and all candidates?
That's what you did. You just admitted it.
No.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, what's up? Aaron here, Kennedy and Looney. We're going to take a quick swing through X, and see what is going on there. Nothing much positive happens on X, but let's take a look and a listen, I suppose. Let's go.
Hey,
I mean, how
that's
do you see it?
something
I
everyone
mean,
can
nobody has been
enjoy.
able to get out from under the tariff pressure from President Trump. This meeting apparently happened in a conversation at the UN General Assembly where the president said, you should come on down, and that's why they're going. I don't know if they go there with the expectation, but how do you say no to Donald Trump if he wants to meet? I mean, what's your expectations on this one?
Countries have managed to.
If we had these people that were running, that were ruining our country, destroying our country with their open borders and men playing in women's sports and transgender from everybody and windmills all over the place, if we allowed that to go on for another couple of years, we would be, I'm not sure that we'd even have a country.
Gang, what's up? Everybody's heard that Mark Carney is back to Washington to work out a deal with Trump. It doesn't sound like a deal is going to be made. They spend a lot of time here embarrassing themselves, sucking up, faking, just duping and dodging what would seem to me to be all of Canada. Let's take a peek at our ministers and our new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, in Washington with Donald Trump. This is humiliation at its finest.
Hey,
We're going to go
that's
into the
something
Oval Office where
everyone can
Mark
enjoy.
Carney, again, Prime Minister, is sitting down with Donald Trump. Let's have a brief listen into this conversation as these two might take some questions ahead of their formal meeting.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. It's an honor to have the Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, who I have made very popular. He's an extremely popular Prime Minister, and I'm very honored to do it because I liked him. Right from the beginning, I've liked him, and we've had a good relationship. We have some natural conflict, but we will probably work that out. But we've had a very strong relationship, and your hosting of the various countries that showed up, that was a beautiful job you did, and I appreciate it very much. We're going to be talking about trade. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things. We'll certainly be talking about Gaza. We're in very serious negotiations to, I guess you could say, depending on the way you count, 3,000 years. You could say 500 years. You could say, but that it's been raging for a long time. And I think there's a possibility that we could have peace in the Middle East. It's something even beyond the Gaza situation. We want a release of the hostages immediately, etc. And so our team is over there now. Another team just left, and other countries, literally every country in the world has supported the plan.
Yep.
I don't think there's anybody that hasn't, actually, not that I've seen. But there's a real chance that we could do something, so you may have some questions on that later. But in the meantime, we'll spend some time and we'll make some deals and we'll do some things that are good for both of our countries. And Mark, it's an honor to have you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. If I may, you kindly hosted me and some of my colleagues a few months ago, and I said at the time, you are a transformative president. And since then, the transformation in the economy, unprecedented commitments of NATO partners to defense spending, peace from India, Pakistan through to Azerbaijan, Armenia, disabling Iran as a force of terror, and now, and I'm running out of time, but this is many respects the most important.
The merger of Canada and the United States.
He cuts him off right when Mark Carney is getting to his most important point, and Mark Carney's not going to do a thing about it. Let's see.
That wasn't where I was going. On this solemn day of commemoration of the horrific attacks of October 7th, for the first time in decades, hundreds of years, thousands of years, this prospect of peace that you've made possible. Canada stands foursquare behind those efforts, and we'll do whatever we can to support
Very
them.
nice.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
What would it take for you to drop or lower your tariffs on Canadian sectors, including aluminum and steel?
Well, we're going to be talking about that with the Prime Minister. We'll be talking about tariffs. We'll be talking about a lot of that, but that's for a little bit later on. I want to just acknowledge our great ambassador. Is he doing a good job?
He's doing a good job.
Otherwise, I'll get him out of there so fast. No, you have a good
Is it the White House's position that furloughed workers senators should be paid for their back pay?
I would say it depends on who we're talking about. I can tell you this, the Democrats have put a lot of people in great risk and jeopardy, but it really depends on who you're talking about. But for the most part, we're going to take care of our people. There are some people that really don't deserve to be taken care of, and we'll take care of them in a different way. Okay? Thank you.
Mr. President, in your opinion, why has Canada and the United States failed to reach an agreement up until now?
Well, it's a complicated agreement, more complicated maybe than any other agreement we have on trade, because, we have natural conflict. We also have mutual love. We have great love for each other. I love this. I love Canada and the people of Canada, and Mark feels the same way about here. The problem we have is that they want a car company and I want a car company, meaning the U.S. wants a car company, and they want steel and we want steel. And, so in other countries, they're very far away, and there's no problem. You can compete and you can do. We don't like to compete because we sort of hurt each other when we compete, and so we have a natural conflict. It's a natural business conflict. Nothing wrong with it, and I think we've come a long way over the last few months, actually, in terms of that relationship. So when it comes to trade, the United States was always giving everything. They gave everything to Canada. They would let car companies leave here and go to Canada. But that hurts the United States. And, other presidents didn't see that. They weren't business-oriented. They might have been good politicians in some cases, not in all cases. They were bad at both. But it's a very natural conflict, and it's something that we're working out.
Canada has offered a lot of compromise this summer. Are you willing today to offer some compromise to Canada, maybe on steel, on anything else?
Well, we've made compromise, and we've made some compromise even on steel. But, we have the same basic authority and the same basic, this could be also a little bit of a conflict with other countries all over the world on steel, because we want to make our own steel. We don't want to bring steel in for the most part, but we will bring it in, and we do bring it in. We continue to bring it in from Canada, but there is a tariff to pay. And I think that would be a normal thing to say, but we've come a long way. I think, Howard, we can truly say, do you want to make a comment on that?
Well, I think the opportunity to work together, but as you said, there's conflict. Why do we make cars in Canada? You've called that out, and you've addressed that. So there are places we should work together, and there are places that we have natural conflict.
It's a tough situation because we want to make our cars here. At the same time, we want Canada to do well making cars. So we're working on formulas, and I think we'll get there.
Canadians are refusing to go to the U.S. The numbers are down like 23% in the first 7 months of the year. What do you say to Canadians that don't want to go to the U.S. now because of your 51st state talk, because of the trade war, the tariffs?
Yeah.
And
well,
fear
I understand that. Look, I understand that, and Americans don't want to buy cars that are made in Canada. We have the same conflict. So there isn't. It's something that will get worked out. There's still great love between the two countries, but American people want product here. They want to make it here. Detroit was emptied out and moved to Canada, moved to Mexico, moved to other places, not just Canada, and. Now they're all moving back, they're moving back. We have, right now, I was just telling Mark, we have 17 trillion, but it's really much higher. That was as of a couple of months ago. Yeah. We have over $17 trillion being invested now in the United States. As an example, Biden, he was the worst president we've ever had, but they had less than 1 trillion in 4 years. We have more than 17 trillion in 8 months. 8 months. And I think that number is going to be $22 trillion. There's never been anything like that in the history of the world for any country, not even close. If you did 1 trillion in a year, that's pretty good. We're going to do over 20. And it's coming in with AI. It's coming in with auto plants. We're building auto plants, a lot of auto plants in the U.S. It's coming in for a lot of reasons. It's coming in because of the fact, I think the November 5th election was a big factor, and I think the tariffs are a big factor. And again, we want Canada to do great, but there's a point at which we also want the same business. We're competing for the same business. That's the problem. That's why I keep mentioning one way to solve that problem is a very easy way. But we're competing for the same business. He wants to make cars, we want to make cars, and we're in competition. And the advantage we have is we have this massive market. So it's it's quite an advantage.
Mr. President, can we talk about Portland for a second? Are you planning to invoke the Insurrection Act? And that would be, a very long-standing law that's been on the books.
Yeah, well, it's been invoked before, as you know. If you look at Chicago, Chicago's a great city where there's a lot of crime. And if the governor can't do the job, we'll do the job. It's all very simple. They probably had 50 murders in Chicago over the last 5, 6, 7 months. Many people were shot. And then the governor gets up and he says, well, we can handle it. They can't handle it. They don't know what they're doing. The mayor is grossly incompetent. He's at a 4% approval rating in Chicago. He's at a 4%, lowest approval rating, lower than even de Blasio had, which is hard to believe in New York. I thought de Blasio would always maintain that record, but the Chicago guy is even lower. So I think that we want safe cities. If you look at D.C., you would right now, Mark, you could go out, take your family out to dinner, you could walk right down the middle of the street. There is no crime in D.C. When I got here, this place was a raging hellhole where people would come from Canada, people would come from other places and end up getting shot. Nobody's being shot. The National Guard's been unbelievable. I mean, they are strong, tough guys. You know, we won something at the Supreme Court, which is a big deal, merit. Everything now in this country is merit-based. I didn't think I'd ever see it again. And we have our soldiers are merit-based too. And they're central casting. And they walk through that town, and I'll tell you what, this place is safe. It's beautiful. Now we're in Memphis, and the same thing's happening. You're getting the reports. The bad guys are saying, we don't want anything to do with this. And we're removing many people. In D.C., we took out 1,700 career criminals and sent them back to the countries from which they came, mostly led out by Biden and his people.
Carney's not going to do any of that, not even close.
That had an open border policy. And you know, Canada, you suffered because of that too, because they'd come here and they'd go into Canada also. So we're like a buffer for that in terms of, Canada suffered greatly by Biden and the open border, the policy of open border, totally unchecked, totally unvetted. And these people were, you know, if you got 5%, 2%, now you were getting a lot of bad people. And we now have a closed border. You've done well. Yep. We have a closed border, and it's a really closed border. In fact, for 4 months, I don't even know if this is possible, but the figures were released. 0 people were able to come into the United States from the southern border. 0. And as you know, we've taken a very hard stand on drugs. This is also benefiting you. A lot of we call them the water drugs, the drugs that come in through water. They're not coming. There are no boats anymore. Frankly, there are no fishing boats. There's no boats out there, period. If you want to know the truth, we're saying, does anybody go fishing anymore? The fact is, we knocked out, probably saved at least 100,000 lives, American lives, Canadian lives, by taking out all those boats coming in. So it's, and now they don't come in that way anymore. Now they'll come in other ways, and we're not going to allow that either. So we've done a great job on that. But on crime, Chicago's a great city, but you can't be a great city if you have murders and if you have a lot of problems, and they do. And they have an incompetent policy, just like they had open border policy, anybody could come in. They came in from prisons, they came in from mental institutions, drug dealers, they came in from all over the place, and we don't have that anymore. This country is becoming we're a very strong country. Look, financially speaking, I would say that because of the tariffs, because of the election, because of the policy, because of the great big beautiful deal, it's what I added the word great because it really is. It's the biggest bill ever passed in the history of our country. We don't need another bill. It's the biggest tax cuts, when you think no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime for the people. But far beyond that, what it does is incentivizes auto plants and AI and all of the things that nobody's ever passed a bill like. We don't need another bill. We don't need any more bills. I said, let's get it all at once. I was greatly helped by our Speaker, Mike Johnson, and by the Senate. I'll tell you what, John Thune's been, both of those guys have been incredible. And we got a bill passed that I said, let's see if we can get it all done. Because these Democrats are like insurrectionists, okay? They're so bad for our country. Their policy is so bad for our country. I said, let's see if we can get it all done. And everybody said it's not doable. Because it's the biggest bill ever passed in the history of our country. And we got it all done. We don't need anything else. We got everything we want. And now, because of that, that's a big reason why the companies are coming in. 1 year depreciation, 1 year write-off, 1 year expensing. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. So they're coming in from all over the world. But to have a great country, you can't have crime. And we don't have crime, but we have cities where there's tremendous crime. And Chicago's one of them. And if the governor can't straighten it out, we'll straighten it out. Thank you. A question for the President.
Do you remain committed to, Mr. Prime Minister, I'd like to know how come the UK and the European Union have succeeded to sign deals and bring the tariffs down, and Canada still hasn't been able to do the same?
Yeah, because they're not located right next to each other. It makes it, in many cases, it's much better and easier. But
yeah, and if I may, let's be clear about the relationship as it stands right now. We are the second largest trading partner of the United States. We do a lot of trade going across the border where we're cooperating, first thing. Secondly, we are the largest foreign investor in the United States. $500 billion in the last 5 years alone, probably $8 trillion in the next 5 years if we get the agreement that we expect to get. Thirdly, there are areas, as the President just said, where conflict, maybe not so much conflict, we compete. There are areas where we compete, and it's in those areas where we have to come to an agreement that works. But there are more areas where we are stronger together, and that's what we're focused on. And we're going to get the right deal. Right deal for America, right deal, obviously, from my perspective, for Canada.
Including one thing that, wait. So one thing where we are working very closely is the Golden Dome. That's the protective mechanism, and you see how that works. It's unbelievable. Ronald Reagan wanted to have it, and at that time they didn't have the technology, even close to the technology, but he was advanced, and we'll be working together on a Golden Dome for the two countries, and it's something that I think is going to be very important. Especially when you look at the world, you look at what's happening. We want to have that protection. It's really amazing. The technology is unbelievable.
Mr. President, why do you say some federal workers should not get their back pay? Why do you say some?
Well, you're going to have to figure that out. Okay, ask the Democrats that question. Go ahead.
Mr. President, just to follow up there, I mean, the law says that when the government is reopened, that workers will receive their back pay. So are you going to define the law there, or what do you?
I follow the law, and what the law says is correct, and I follow the law.
Mr. President, will Canada be leaving empty-handed, or will Mr. Carney be leaving Washington with a deal on tariffs?
I think they're going to be very happy. We have a lot of things that we're working on that people don't talk about. They talk about, competitiveness. He's a very competitive person. And they talk about things that we don't necessarily agree on. But I think they're going to walk away very happy. I think so.
That you've signed, there's been a minimum tariff that countries have got. When USMCA gets renegotiated, do you want a minimum tariff on goods between Canada and the US?
Well, we're going to have tariffs between Canada, and they have them with us. I will say with our farmers, as you know, they went up to as much as 400%, 250, 300, and even one at 401. We found one having to do with a very small product, but it was high. So we've always had tariffs between the two of us, and actually Canada was charging us very high tariffs on our.
Safety is now a thing of the past. After 8 years of Trudeau's catch and release policies, crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder rule our streets.
Crime and violence that today afflicts our nation will soon, and I mean very soon, come to an end.
When I'm Prime Minister, he will stay behind bars, and he will only come out in a box. And we're going to make sure that it is jail, not bail.
It will be jail and not bail. Jail, not bail. Jail, not bail.
Hard time for hard crime.
It's the courts that decided that, sir. So what does that say about your view of the courts?
It says that my view is that I will decide.
What we really have to do is rethink what tools are available to the government to just simply disregard important constitutional rights. Doing this very thing and our ability to protest governments at all.
That I will decide, that I will decide, that I will decide.
Hey guys, I have an update on my dad. I'm actually just going to read this. It's on my teleprompter because this is...
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Government never talks down our workers, never talks down our economy, never talks down our industries. And we are there to create jobs while we be protecting a lot of jobs. Of course, I hear everything that is happening in the auto sector. That's why we've been there for Oda, for Honda, for Toyota, for Stellantis, for Ford, and for GM. And we've put a remission system in place to make sure that they would protect jobs. Meanwhile, I must say to my honourable colleague that Canada will be the second best country in the G20 for doing business, according to the Economic Intelligence Unit. And among the G7, Canada is ranked third with respect to ease of starting a business.
The honourable member for Calgary, Signal Hill.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister promised Canadians that he would negotiate a win with Donald Trump by July 21st. That was months ago, and Canadians are worse off than we were before. The fastest shrinking economy, the second highest unemployment rate in the G7. All the while, the Prime Minister jetted around the globe. In Calgary, Imperial Oil is cutting 900 jobs. This is a direct result of 10 years of Liberal anti-energy law and policy. Canadians are losing jobs. Is it because of the Prime
Minister? So what are the UN Sustainable Development Goals? They're a set of 17 goals, including no poverty, zero hunger, climate action, and gender equality.
God damn it, that's not news! What about us?
Look, Stephen, Terrence and I
So people ask often, like, why I don't cover the World Economic Forum and their board of directors. People ask why I don't cover more international politics. I don't know how it works here on YouTube. Really? Like, I'm trying to figure it out. 2 years in, still trying to figure it out. We're going to take a peek now at something that I think is a lot of information, but I watch this stuff all the time. Like, I feel like I am informed on what's going down. I don't know if the crowds can handle it. Or if it just is censored so much so they can proceed with their plan. Let's take a look at what I'm talking about. It's a lot to handle right here. Like, it is a mind, it mixes up my mind. They're trying to confuse us all. Look.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
So the point of all of this is we're not what we've been told, and we're so much more than we've been led to believe. And it is the attempt to deny that power that is driving so much of what we're seeing happening in our world today.
And so you think the motivation of that attempt is evil?
Yes.
That's an actual force that people are giving into. And that's why they're enacting all these levels of control and that's why they're suppressing people and releasing bots on the internet. It's literally an expression of evil.
And evil's not necessarily darkness. A lot of people confuse these. Darkness is simply a polar force. We live in a binary world. We've got to have light and dark, plus and minus, boys and girls. We live in the darkness is a passive polarity. Evil has an active stated purpose, and the purpose of evil has always been, whether you're looking at those ancient texts or the Sumerian texts, Mesopotamian texts, it's always been to deny us the greatest expressions of our humanness. And now we live in a time, this is no ordinary time in history. None of this is happening in a vacuum. We're barreling down the road toward this convergence of so many natural cycles and the date 2030 that has been identified by the United Nations, by the WEF, by a number of corporations, by Ray Kurzweil. In terms of AI implementation, they're all looking at 2030. And what you're seeing are the powers and the forces of the world jockeying to be in the best position when this date is upon us. And I'm not saying it's like January 1st, 2030, but the United Nations, for example, they've got, and again, I don't know if I'm being redundant here, but they've got the UN SDG 2030, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. They want implemented by the year 2030. They're not getting much traction.
Is that going to be enough time? They're taking over very quickly.
Because they're not good ideas. The goals, if you read them on the outside, Joe, they're deceptively beautiful. Who doesn't want food security? Who doesn't want the end of poverty? Who doesn't want the end of disease? Now you look at the fine print. How will they achieve those goals? And that's where it gets very concerning. All right, they haven't had much traction because the way to get there is concerning. They're not good ideas.
We can see how they get there through our country. That's a fact. Just pull it apart. And now we're a part of a third world developing nation.
Now we look at World Economic Forum. I know you've had people talking about WEF. They've been around since 1971. They meet once a year in Davos. They talk about what they would like the world to look like. And they have every right to do that. Some of their ideas are very dystopian, in my opinion. Things like you will own nothing and be happy. We've heard that.
Yeah.
Or the Great Reset is the term that they coined, or the Fourth Industrial Revolution. They haven't gotten much traction. But they recognize that their goals were similar to the UN. So in 2019, these two organizations joined forces. They signed a formal document. So now the WEF ideas have traction through the UN implementation of these Sustainable Development Goals. And the goals can be beautiful. I'm not against the goals at all. It's how we go about, do we honor ourselves and do we honor our humanness as we achieve those goals? And there are very different ideas about what it is that means. I have a video clip, WEF. Do you see that on there? Can we bring that video clip up? Because in one sentence, Klaus Schwab states that the goal for the Fourth Industrial Revolution and the biological world, our biological identity. He said the goal of this Fourth Industrial Revolution is to merge all of those into this massive database run by AI. And here,
put some headphones
you can hear it. Should be the next.
It's at the end what the Fourth Industrial Revolution will lead to is a fusion of our physical, our digital, and our biological identities.
Did you hear how he paused before he said biological?
Yeah.
Did you catch that? So he's saying, okay, the physical world's already tokenized. We have a digital ID for every element.
All right. So we've got to switch over to question period now, which I think it's happening now in real time. So we'll check that out. This is Tom Osborne. He's a real loser. Like, oh my goodness. Tom Osborne should be ashamed for his family.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today marks 7th Annual Canadian Beer Day, a day to celebrate Canadian beer and our world-class brewers, large and small, who brew from coast to coast to coast. Celebrated each year on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, Canadian Beer Day brings Canadians together to celebrate the economic, social, cultural contributions of brewing across this country. Canadian beer is more than just a refreshing beverage. It is part of who we are as Canadians. Today is a toast to the family farmers growing the finest barley in Western Canada, to the proud breweries of my home province of Newfoundland and Labrador, to the malters, warehouse workers, truck drivers, retailers and bartenders who bring it from field to glass. Our brewers are at the heart of our communities, large and small, urban and rural. Together, they directly employ 24,000 Canadians and support more than 149,000 jobs across the beer value chain.
Come on.
The Honourable Member for Riding Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to recognize the historic accomplishment of a local business that's been serving the community of Treeherne, Manitoba and surrounding area for over a century. Metcalf's Garage has successfully operated for the last 125 years and now proudly are the oldest family-owned Ford dealership in Canada. The journey of Metcalf's Garage began in 1900 with the vision of Thomas and Claire Metcalf. The Metcalfs began serving their community by selling the Ford Model T, even teaching people how to drive after they purchased it. 5 generations later, Metcalf's Garage has remained a family-owned company that with the...
They're all crooked. Like, I'm not saying that one side is much better than the other, just that one side is probably a little bit better than the other. They're all corrupt. Like, what is Mazur talking
commitment
about?
To hard work and service to their community. The story of Metcalf's Garage inspires us all, proving that true success comes from putting the local community first. On behalf of the House of Commons, I want to congratulate the Metcalf family for their amazing team for 125 years of work and service to our rural region.
Honorable Député de Compton.
The Honourable Member for Compton-Stanstead. Mr. Speaker, thank you. In this Women's History Month, I'd like to pay tribute to a pioneer in municipal politics. Madame Françoise Bouchard, the outgoing mayor of Dixville. Madame Bouchard was the first Director General, the first municipal councillor, and the first woman mayor in her village. She marked municipal politics by being so tirelessly involved, by being so proud. Since 1984, she has served for over 40 years in political life. At the age of 84, she is the...
At the age of 84, you should just retire.
Certainly the most long-standing mayor, and it was an incredible opportunity that she has had, and she has been involved in municipal buildings, a community center, accessible housing. Madame Bouchard, you command respect. Thank you for everything.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton West.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize the incredible work of Firefighter Aid Ukraine, an organization that embodies Edmonton's compassion and spirit. Started after Russia invaded Crimea in 2014, the FFAU has been a lifeline to the brave first responders in Ukraine. They've collected firefighter gear, life rescue equipment, and vital medical supplies from Canadian and U.S. first responders, as well as vendors, delivering over 450 tons of supplies directly to the front lines. The volunteers have made countless trips to Ukraine and provided thousands of hours of hands-on medical and trauma training. They've even brought over bomb-sniffing dogs Fergus and Torch to assist in saving lives in Ukraine. At the heart of this tireless work is Executive Director Kevin Royal, along with his board members Chris, Eva, Linda, Stuart, Nikki, and Dennis. They reflect the very best of Edmonton's selflessness. Thank you, Kevin, the board, and all the volunteers. It's because of people like you, Edmonton is known as the City of Champions.
The Honourable Member for Whitby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise to celebrate one of Whitby's finest, Olivia Smith, a remarkable athlete who at just 20 years old made history. This past July, she broke another glass ceiling in women's sport, signing with Arsenal Football Club. She earned a world record fee of 1 million Great British pounds, becoming the most expensive signing in women's football history. Her journey began at age 5 at the Whitby Iroquois Soccer Club, and she's now blazing a trail in the UK's top league. With 9 goals scored this past season, she has already earned the Women's Player of the Year award from the Professional Football Association. What a feat. As a soon-to-be dad of 3 girls, I know little girls and fans all across Canada, and including in Whitby, are inspired by Olivia's every move. Olivia, we're all cheering for you.
Yes. The Honourable Member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, growing up in Oshawa, the nightly routine was simple. Dinner at home or at Teddy's if you were lucky. Then spend as much time outside as possible, knowing it was time to go home when the street lights came on. But now, crime has gotten so bad that the new nightly routine is to lock your car, hide your valuables, and turn on your security system if you have one. Police in Durham region and across the country are now urging Canadians to take part in what they call the 9 p.m. routine, asking residents to secure their property before bed. This is the reality after 10 years of Liberal soft-on-crime laws.
Shame.
On Monday, despite pleas from police associations, victims, and countless other law-abiding Canadians, the Liberals voted against our Conservative motion to strengthen Canada's bail laws and put public safety first. We need to scrap Liberal bail and keep violent repeat offenders behind bars because Canadians should not need a bedtime checklist.
L'honorable député.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. June 24th is St. John the Baptist Day in Quebec, the Fête Nationale. But it's also a collective moment of mourning for an entire nation. Serge Fiori, the great Serge Fiori, Fiori the wise, Fiori the mad, Fiori the gentle, the affectionate, the friend. Our Serge Fiori has gone on to hum the most beautiful melodies ever sung to the clouds. Fiori, harmonium, Séguin, and as a solo artist. Fiori, the Quebecer, left us in the midst of our people's celebrations. Of course, I was dejected, but I still cherish the support he gave me for singing about our sovereignty. On behalf of the Bloc Québécois, and the presence of his colleagues and close friends, including my own, Mario Lefebvre and Serge Grimaud, I reiterate my condolences to his partner, Hélène Lévesque, his family, and all those who loved him. He left before seeing our country blossom. Fiori, my friend, it will be our turn. It won't be long. And we will think of you on that day, Serge.
The Honourable Member for Halifax.
Mr. Speaker, this week 400 community leaders from across Canada, including municipal governments, Indigenous communities, and community organizations, are gathered in Halifax for the Livable Cities Forum. Hosted by ICLEI Canada and the Halifax Regional Municipality, the forum's purpose is clear: to accelerate climate action in our communities by working together through creative and ambitious partnerships. Together, delegates are exploring solutions to the challenges our communities are facing all across Canada, safeguarding against climate impacts, long-term climate financing, and building affordable housing and transformative energy infrastructure. Bringing this conference to Halifax was an initiative I was proud to be a part of in my past role. And while I'm sad to miss this event, I'm honoured to celebrate it here with my new colleagues here in the House of Commons. Building a Canada that is resilient, net zero, and equitable is only possible when diverse voices come together and are heard. something our government recognizes and values. I commend the work of all those involved and wish...
The honourable member for Long Range Mountains.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister asked to be judged by the prices at the grocery store, while Long Range Mountains families are working hard to keep food on the table, yet each visit brings shock at the checkout. The price of staples has soared because of the Liberal government's hidden taxes. Those baked-in taxes are clear. The industrial carbon tax on fertilizer and farm equipment, the inflation tax from money printing deficits, carbon tax too, and now the food packaging tax that makes everyday necessities even more expensive. A senior, Edward, in the community of Irishtown has told me he can't even afford a steak dinner even once in a while because it costs him over $50. Canadians are spending $800 more on food this year, and local food banks are seeing record demand. Conservatives offered a simple solution to stop the Liberal taxes on food, and they shamefully voted against it, Mr. Speaker. We will keep fighting for Canadians because we know they cannot afford another Liberal broken promise.
That's right.
The honourable member for Nipissing-Témiscamingue. Mr. Speaker.
Welcomes the Canadian Airports Council to Ottawa and included our representatives from my community's Jack Garland Airport in North Bay. From Jack Garland Airport, citizens in need of specialized medical services fly to Toronto. Then there are firefighters who jump on an airplane at a moment's notice to assist communities facing natural disasters. And from North Bay, mining executives travel the globe to share leading-edge products and services. Airports are essential, and so a very special thank you on behalf of all of us to the airport personnel who work to ensure this sector is thriving for the betterment of North Bay and similar communities across our vast country. We say merci, thank you, miigwech.
The honourable member for Battleford, Lloydminster, Meadow Lake.
The Prime Minister promised Canadians the fastest growing economy in the G7. Instead, Canada now has the fastest shrinking economy and the second highest unemployment rate. The Prime Minister said to judge him by grocery prices. Well, they're rising even faster. He promised to build, baby, build, but his anti-development policies are driving investment away. He promised nation building at speeds once thought impossible, yet not one single permit has been issued. He promised a trade deal with the United States by July 21st, and still there is no deal. He promised elbows up on U.S. tariffs, which are now twice as high. He promised to spend less. Spending is up billions. He promised to invest more, but investment is leaving the country at an unprecedented rate. Mr. Speaker, Canadians need action, not more empty promises.
The honourable member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, on September 23rd, a fire severely damaged the Patro Roc Amadour, located in the heart of our Limoilou community. This organization supports hundreds of families every week while providing essential services to children, seniors, and people with disabilities. Serious damage was caused, including more than $100,000 in food lost and the interruption of services such as Meals on Wheels. But the community immediately rallied to help. In Beauport-Limoilou, solidarity is not just a word, it's a reality. Already, citizens, volunteers, and local organizations are reaching out to support the Patro and help it get back on its feet as quickly as possible. This outpouring of generosity reflects the spirit of our riding. When faced with adversity, we stick together. I invite everyone, according to their means, to contribute to this group effort so that Patro Roc Amadour can continue to feed, help, and bring our community together.
The honourable member for Provencher.
Mr. Speaker, have you ever dreamed about winning the lottery? Well, Donald Trump hit the jackpot. Yesterday, this Prime Minister committed $1 trillion of investment into the United States. That's on top of the $500 billion that fled from Canada in the last 5 years and the $50 billion that left just this year under this government. Now let's put this into perspective. That's the equivalent of doubling our national debt. Canadians are left with less investment, less jobs, less wages. When our Prime Minister said that he's going to build, baby build, Canadians actually thought he meant Canada. But what he really means is closing mines in Quebec and opening in Pennsylvania, shutting down mills in BC and opening in Washington, shutting down auto plants in Ontario and opening in Michigan. American tariffs have doubled, and the Prime Minister is bragging about pushing $1 trillion of Canadian investments to the United States. That isn't a plan for growth, it's a plan for surrender. Mr. Speaker, why is the Prime Minister giving Donald Trump $1 trillion?
The honourable member for Vancouver Granville.
On October 12th, Ismaili Muslims from Vancouver to Halifax, from Resolute to Laval, and around the world will celebrate the 54th birthday of His Highness Prince Rahim Aga Khan, his first since his ascension to the seat of the Ismaili Imamate. As our 50th Imam, Maulana Shah Rahim continues the legacy of his father as a strong partner to Canada, a partnership built on shared principles to improve the quality of life of those less fortunate, of supporting pluralism, of fighting climate change, of building resilience, and of ensuring that we find ways to work together across differences here at home and around the world. His example to us is that life is a marathon, not a sprint, and that we must build carefully and thoughtfully for the long term. For Ismailis, these values resonate in our commitment to building Canada. From coast to coast to coast, Ismailis are inspired by the example of our Imam to serve our communities, to build economic prosperity, and to be engaged members of Canadian society. And on this occasion, we affirm our commitment to these values and to the important guidance we receive from our Imam. I invite all members of this House in joining me to wish His Highness Prince Rahim Aga Khan a very happy birthday.
Here. Oral questions, questions orales. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, now we know why President Trump wanted this Prime Minister to win so much, so he would be against a weak leader whose tax and anti-development policies are driving billions of dollars in jobs to the United States. Yesterday, the Prime Minister promised President Trump $1 trillion of investment in the coming years if we get the deal we want. That is investment that will leave Canada, driving mines and paper mills and factories out of Canada, leaving families without work. Why didn't the Prime Minister negotiate an end to the softwood lumber tariffs instead of offering this gift? The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Boo! Sucks. Everything about him sucks ass.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Things aren't getting off to an auspicious start today. Okay, the Right Honourable Prime Minister from the top, please.
Mr. Speaker, this is another moment to give a little economic lesson to the Leader of the Opposition. The Canadian and American economies are closely aligned, and I gave such a lesson to the President of the U.S. yesterday. I said that what is at risk is Canadian investment into the United States if we do not get a real detail. We will get a deal, however, Mr. Speaker.
He said nothing and then turns his back. Carney is a coward.
Mr. Speaker, he could certainly give lessons on driving investment out of Canada and into the United States, because he has already managed to drive $54 billion worth of investment into the United States. This killed 86,000 jobs. Households are suffering from this. People are sitting around the dinner table wondering how they are going to pay their bills. And since this Prime Minister took power, American softwood lumber tariffs have doubled. Here's the question. After giving the Americans a $54 billion gift, has he negotiated an end to the softwood lumber tariffs? Yes or no? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the current situation is as follows. We have the best agreement with the Americans in the world. We are still negotiating further gains in major sectors, including softwood lumber. And we will only accept the best deal on softwood lumber.
He's claiming a bill that was established in 1984 by a government of a different color. Like, I don't care too much about that, but he acts so goddamn smug about it. This pussy is hateful. Like, I don't mean to let him get me so wound up early in this thing, but Mark Carney is the absolute evil in your eye that people are just kind of trying to figure out if he's good or bad. He's evil, and he cares not about you, but his bottom line, and he will suck your blood to get there. Let's see how the rest of this goes.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, we now know why the U.S. President wanted this Prime Minister in power so badly. A weak leader whose high taxes and anti-development laws are sending billions of dollars and thousands of jobs out of this country. 86,000 jobs lost. And yesterday, the Prime Minister promised the President that he would increase Canadian investment in the U.S. by $1 trillion if he gets the agreement that he expects to get. Mr. Speaker, in exchange for $1 trillion of job losses in Canada, will he at least get an end to the U.S. auto tariffs that are killing jobs for our workers in Ontario?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we have the best deal in the world with the Americans. First point. Second point, the President of the United States and myself had a meeting of minds yesterday with respect to the future of the steel sector, the aluminum sector, the energy sector in cooperation, which is why our teams are negotiating the terms of those deals. And we are working, as the President himself said in the Oval Office, on the modalities of an auto agreement.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, he just confirmed he's selling out our auto workers. And let me tell him what it means when investment leaves this country, because he was forced a record amount out in his 7 months in power. The 700 workers at the GM plant who lost their jobs in Oshawa, they can tell him about investment that is left. They're sitting around the dinner table wondering how they're going to pay their bills while GM announces $4 billion of new investment south of the border. So while the Prime Minister promises yet another $1 trillion gift to President Trump, why doesn't he look them at those workers in the eye and explain to them why he betrayed them?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what this government is doing for the auto sector is an unprecedented investment in the Canadian auto sector. We look the Canadian auto workers in the eye. We have $5 billion in the Strategic Response Fund. We have $10 billion for liquidity management. We have worker retraining. We are striking deals with countries around the world. We have the best deal already with the Americans, and it will be even better.
Even better?
Leader of the Opposition.
Even better.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we'll go soft on him today because I know he's still recovering from surgery to have his elbows removed. Remember that promise, Mr. Speaker, dancing around with his elbows in the air? We haven't seen those elbows since the election, after which $54 billion of investment gone to the United States. 86,000 jobs gone. American tariffs on Canada doubled. And as to the best deal in the world, why is it then we have the best deal that Canada has the fastest shrinking economy in the G7 and 86,000 people are without a job?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Okay. All right. Mr. Speaker, there are three things that are true. First is, I realized long before the Leader of the Opposition, long before the last election. You remember the last election? long before the last election, that our relationship with the United States would never again be what it was. Secondly, thing that is true is we have the best deal with the Americans. And the third thing that's true is we will get an even better deal because we...
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Canadians do remember the last election where that Prime Minister promised to put elbows up. It was not a promise, it was the promise that he ran on. Now those elbows have come down. The American tariffs have doubled. We have by far the weakest economy in the G7. 86,000 people have lost their jobs. And the Prime Minister went pathetically to the White House to offer a $1 trillion gift, bowing before the President in weakness. $1 trillion, Mr. Speaker. Speaking of the last election, where in his platform did he promise to give $1 trillion of our investment dollars to the Americans?
Mr. Speaker,
not up there,
I would like
bitch.
to inform the Leader of the Opposition that there is a thing called the private sector. The private sector makes decisions about investment. The private sector, with the best deal in the world, will invest in this country and we will build Canada strong.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. This will be a long one. It's going to be a long day. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Wow.
Come on.
The Prime Minister seems to have received some mockery. I guess the bar is very low. All he had to do was not fall on his face in front of the U.S. president in the entire world. So I guess he did that. He said that he was a strong leader. That's great. But the Prime Minister ought to gain more and talk less. Is the Prime Minister truly content with a few nice words from the U.S. President instead of a trade agreement? The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Fucking lame translation.
Mr. Speaker, I am happy that the U.S. President and I had a meeting of the minds about a deal for the steel, aluminum, and energy sectors.
He's a retard.
That is why our teams are working on just such a deal as we speak. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. But that's not what we heard about during the campaign. It was supposed to be better than that. The truth is the Prime Minister came back empty-handed with nothing at all. Zero. Zilch. Yet there are new tariffs on trucks and increased tariffs on softwood lumber.
Nothing.
The great negotiator is again coming back into the country, the tail between his legs. When will he stun us? When will he impress us? The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
He's a pussy. Coward.
Mr. Speaker.
A fraud.
Once
a
again.
con man. A snake oil salesman.
On July 31st, the President of the United States.
This guy is an absolute pussy.
Himself.
He's useless to you. He is only going to drain
in the world
what you
the US
have,
and Canada.
What you thought you would have for your grandkids. It'll be sucked up
of
long before
trade
they get
tariffs,
to use
but we
it
are
by
working
him.
Harder to get a deal
And
for
he's
the
arrogant about it.
Steel, aluminum, and softwood lumber sectors. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. His best deal in the world is not really working for the forestry sector nor for the aluminum sector. More pretty words. All he cares about is compliments. Jean de La Fontaine wrote about the fable of the fox and the crow. Skewering the Prime Minister's view of flattery. Does the Prime Minister really believe that Quebecers will content themselves with the words from the wicked fox? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, as we speak, our team, including the Minister of International Trade, are negotiating on behalf of the aluminum sector. This is not just words. There are numbers here too, and we will get a deal.
Speaker, the Prime Minister assured Canadians that he would secure a victory, and there is none. The tariffs that he said he would get rid of have actually doubled, and now he's promising to ship $1 trillion of investment to the U.S. with nothing in return. That's not a strategy. It's a clearance sale on Canadian jobs. Paper mills from BC closing while Washington State cuts the ribbon. Factories in Ontario going dark while Michigan lights up. Why did the Prime Minister trade away Canadian paychecks for an applause line in Washington?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
On the contrary, the Prime Minister is focused on protecting jobs and businesses. First, stabilizing supply chains through initiatives like our Strategic Response Fund, Mr. Speaker, including on steel, aluminum, manufacturing, auto, and agriculture, continuing to build supply chains while maintaining a strong domestic economy, the lowest net debt to GDP ratio in the G7, Mr. Speaker, while negotiating a strong bilateral relationship and diversifying our supply chains. We will build Canada strong.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
With that kind of answer, if you measure your wealth by a stock index, that's your guy. But if it comes from a paycheck, you are his sacrifice. Canadians trusted the Prime Minister to fight for their jobs and to fight for their paychecks. And months after he vowed to get a deal, there still is none. There's 86,000 less Canadians working. He doubled the deficit at home, $54 billion of investment that fled south with the promise to make it $1 trillion. In what world is $1 trillion gift to Donald Trump considered a win?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, businesses from all over the world are choosing Canada. That is why, once again, we are ranked as one of the best countries in the G20 for doing business. We are deepening our partnerships in Europe, in the Indo-Pacific, and in Africa to create opportunities here at home. And that's why we've just signed a historic deal with Indonesia to create jobs, to diversify supply chains. Mr. Speaker, these are more than just agreements. They are the resilience of Canada's economic future, Mr. Speaker.
Anita Anand is a whore.
The Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
Well, it's a good thing you don't need elbows to come home empty-handed. Yesterday, we found out why Donald Trump wanted this guy to be Prime Minister so badly. It's because Trump knew he would get everything he wanted with this Prime Minister. In addition to keeping all the Trudeau-era policies that are already chasing away jobs and investments, this Prime Minister decided to offer $1 trillion gift of Canadian investment dollars flowing to the U.S. That means mines built in the U.S., factories built in the U.S., sawmills built in the U.S., all with Canadian investment dollars. So simple question, in exchange for this generous sacrifice, did the Prime Minister get an end to all U.S. tariffs once and for all?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
We will take no lesson from the Conservatives. No lessons from the Conservatives. On this side of the aisle and all Canadians, we believe in this country, Mr. Speaker. Canada is the place where we attract talent. Canada is the place where we build ships, we build cars, we build planes. Canada is the place where we have critical minerals. Canada is the place where we have energy. Canada is the only country in the G7 with a free trade with all other G7 nations, Mr. Speaker. We're going to build Canada strong. We are the true north, strong and free, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
Believe in Canada? This Liberal Prime Minister won't even pay taxes in Canada, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah! It's a good one.
Once those investment dollars go to the U.S., they don't come back. Just look at TC Energy. That used to be called TransCanada Energy until they had to drop the word Canada because they can't get anything built in this country. They just put $8.5 billion to work in the U.S. The Prime Minister said during the election, anyone who worships at the altar of Donald Trump will kneel before him, not stand up to him. Yesterday, he knelt there like a pylon while the president skated all around him. Did he get an end to U.S. tariffs in return?
The Honourable.
That's really hysterical by Andrew Scheer right there. Opposition House Leader from Regina Capel. Yeah, good job.
Minister of Finance.
That's awesome.
Mr. Speaker, I have even more good news for the Conservatives, Mr. Speaker. On November 4th, we will be presenting a budget with generational investment, Mr. Speaker, that is going to make Canada the strongest economy in the G7. We will invest in our people. We're going to build this country. We're going to empower Canadians, Mr. Speaker. We're going to build Canada strong, and we're going to do it with all Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Oxford.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal Prime Minister promised to fight for our workers, but under his watch, Canada has lost over 86,000 jobs. We have the fastest shrinking economy and the second highest unemployment rate in the G7. The Liberal decision to buy American to appease Trump has cost Cami over 900 jobs in my riding. The Liberal Prime Minister continues to sell out our workers. He's handing over their jobs to the United States and is driving $1 trillion of investment down south. Why?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Listen, Mr. Speaker, over a decade, Canadians...
I'm trying to listen. I'm trying. Honourable Minister.
Didn't you fire your... For decades, Mr. Speaker, Canadians have watched as Conservatives have fought against their interests. Not just voted against their interests, Mr. Speaker, but actively worked to fight against their families' prosperity. Whether it's beating back unionization, whether it's voting against school nutrition programs, whether it's fighting against Canada Child Benefit, Mr. Speaker, Canadians know who has their back, and it sure isn't the Conservative Party.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable-Lotbinière. The Liberals don't want to talk about the trillion dollars of investment. That is the amount that the Prime Minister promised President Trump over the next 5 years. What did the Prime Minister get in return for this promise? A free lunch at the White House. That's it, Mr. Speaker. That's the only result. Our workers are losing their jobs because businesses will be moving to the United States. Mills and sawmills will be closing their doors in Canada and reopening down south. Is that what the Prime Minister promised to Canadians? A lunch at the White House? The Honourable Minister of Trade. Another little lesson for the Conservatives. We have investors in Canada that invest all over the world. For example, the Caisse de dépôt et de placement. The proceeds come back to Canada, where they are given over to our nurses and doctors and firefighters. Everyone benefits. Canadian investment abroad is a good thing for Canada. It is a tool that we can use to build Canada strong. And that is exactly what we are doing with our workers. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable-Lotbinière. What we want, Mr. Speaker, is a country where people invest here, where people around the world invest here in Canada. Instead of doing what the Liberals do and forking over $1 trillion to the United States over the next 5 years, that will cost jobs. The Prime Minister came back empty-handed. It's not just me saying that. Newspapers all over the country, from coast to coast to coast, are in agreement. A lot of words and little results when the Prime Minister goes to meet President Trump. Why is the Prime Minister selling out our future to the United States instead of keeping his promise to end the tariffs? The Honourable Government House Leader. Wow, it looks like there's a Conservative quoting Radio-Canada That's new. They wanted to abolish Radio-Canada during the last campaign. Pension funds and people around the world are investing in Canada. The world is investing in Canada. We are one of the best countries in the G7 for direct foreign investment. And then, thanks to us, we will be building projects that people can invest in. Ports and major projects built with Canadian steel, Canadian aluminum, built by Canadian trades workers. The honourable member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, 5 premiers, including the Premier of Quebec, wrote to the Prime Minister with a clear request that he should withdraw the federal government's factum in the Supreme Court challenge of Bill 21. These 5 premiers refused to let Ottawa use the courts as a weapon in its fight against the notwithstanding clause. I will quote the 5 premiers. The federal government's arguments represent a complete disavowal of the constitutional bargain that brought the Charter into being. Will the Liberals end their constitutional power play and withdraw their factum? The Honourable Minister of Justice. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals did not begin this court challenge, but we will participate in a case that is now being studied by the Supreme Court. It is very important that the federal government protect the Charter and the rights of Canadians. Mr. Speaker, after a few years, this case has reached the Supreme Court. It would be unthinkable for the federal government not to weigh in. We will take part in this court case, and we will protect our Charter today and into the future. The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, this morning, when he was questioned about the federal government's attack on Bill 21 and the notwithstanding clause, the Minister of Justice went rogue once more. He defended his crusade by stating that democracy is under pressure around the world. And as an example, he cited the war in Ukraine, Mr. Speaker. So I guess for him, Quebec's use of the notwithstanding clause to protect state secularism is a risk to democracy comparable to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Honestly, will the minister immediately withdraw that ridiculous and insulting analogy? The Honourable Minister of Justice.
When a member chooses to misinterpret a quote for his political position, it's clear he believes his own argument is very weak. The positions that we have advanced in the Supreme Court of Canada are that the notwithstanding clause does not allow governments, federal or provincial, to permanently damage the rights of Canadians, and that it does not permit governments to silence the courts when governments violate the rights of Canadians. The provinces may have a different point of view. I invite them to participate in the court proceedings. That is a healthy way in a democracy to challenge ideas you may not like.
The Honourable Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
This Prime Minister's broken promises are hurting Canadians. He promised he was going to spend less, and in fact, he's going to spend more, a lot more. Trudeau left a deficit of $42 billion. This Prime Minister is going to supersize it well past $60 billion. Deficits cause inflation, but it's Canadians who end up paying the price. In fact, 86,000 Canadians have paid that price by losing their jobs. When will this Prime Minister stop his reckless spending?
When? The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, you can't make this up. This coming from a leader who's never had a job outside of this House and who couldn't even negotiate with the members of Carleton to keep his seat. The world has changed, and we're going to change how we budget, Mr. Speaker. On November 4th, we're going to come forth with a disciplined budget that's going to build. We're going to invest in Canada. I ask the leader opposite to negotiate his way to finding a way to support us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
That's just an incredible example of 35 seconds of saying absolutely nothing. What is actually going on here is we've got fancy bankers speak to try and say that debt is investment. Debt is debt. It doesn't matter how much lipstick you put on this pig. And it's Canadians who pay the price of this reckless debt spending. Canada has the second highest unemployment in the G7. 86,000 Canadians just lost their job. And all this guy can do is think it's time to sell jokes at Yuck Yucks. When will this Prime Minister realize his reckless spending is actually hurting Canadians?
Is Wayne Long going to get up again?
Secretary of State for institutions.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know where the member opposite's been, but for the last 4 months, we've been crossing the country, listening to Canadians, getting feedback from Canadians. Mr. Speaker, on November 4th, we will table a disciplined budget that will spend less and invest more in Canada. We will build Canada's economy. We will become the strongest, most resilient economy in the G7. I ask the Conservative Party to cut the rhetoric, get on board. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Edmonton West.
The Prime Minister has broken his promise to Canadians. He promised the strongest economy in the G7, but instead delivered the fastest shrinking economy and the second highest unemployment rate. 86,000 more Canadians have lost their jobs, and a staggering $52 billion of net investment has fled the country. And what's the Prime Minister's solution? Send a further $1 trillion of investment down to the U.S. Why is the Prime Minister acting like an investment agent for Trump instead of keeping his promises to Canadians to deliver jobs?
Well done. The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservative leader's been busy writing letters. We're busy cutting taxes. We've cut taxes for 22 million Canadians. We've cut the GST for first-time homebuyers. Interest rates are dropped. And, Mr. Speaker, we are going to build homes at a pace not seen since the Second World War. I ask the party opposite to get on board, stop fighting our initiatives, and support us. Thank you.
The honourable member for Edmonton West.
10 years to deliver all that, and they've delivered nothing. Now, this Prime Minister's promised fiscal discipline, but instead is playing fiscal shell game with his...
I don't mean to go hard, but Wayne Long is a loser.
His failures. He's broken his promise to deliver a declining debt-to-GDP ratio and has abandoned fiscal guardrails. Sure has. The accounting sleight of hand they're offering cannot hide the truth. A deficit of well over $60 billion. Canadians know that debt is debt and deficits drive inflation. How much higher is inflation going to go because of the Liberals' broken promises to rein in their out-of-control spending and deficits?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, we consider elections job interviews. The Canadians looked at the resume of our leader and the leader of the opposition. It wasn't even close. Our leader has world-class business and economic experience versus the leader of the opposition has none. On November 4th, Mr. Speaker, we will table a disciplined budget. We will spend less, invest more in nation-building projects, in defense and infrastructure, and we will build houses at a scale not seen since the Second World War. Mr. Speaker, we're tired of the rhetoric. Join us. Let's build Canada.
Get on board.
L'honorable député de Côte.
Get on board.
The honourable member for Côte-Sud, Rivière-du-Loup, Kataskamik-Témiscouata. Mr. Speaker, since we've had these Liberal Prime Minister's expenses have skyrocketed. Consultants' fees have gone from $19 to $26 billion, despite the promises of this Liberal government. The deficit has gone from $42 to $62 billion. And the result is more inflation, fewer jobs, and a declining economy. It's not surprising that people in my riding are not able to make ends meet. Does this government realize that their broken promises are costing Canadians? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, what we've done since we came to power is that we've lowered taxes for 22 million Canadians. In order to improve the middle-class purchasing power in Canada, we passed legislation to unite the Canadian economy. $250 billion contribution to GDP. It's not surprising that Canadians and Quebecers have chosen a serious leader with a serious and ambitious plan. The Honourable Member for Bourassa. Mr. Speaker, this week the Minister of Finance announced a new budget framework which will separate regular operating expenses and capital investment. In addition, this new plan will change the budget cycle. Budgets will be tabled in the fall, and economic updates will be published in the spring. So in my riding, people are looking forward to the budget, and they want to know very concretely how this new budget framework will not only improve planning, but also improve the implementation of government policy. The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for this excellent question. Yes, Mr. Speaker. The world is changing and we also need to adapt. We need to spend less and invest more. That's why earlier this week, I presented a new way of doing things, a new framework that will improve how we use capital, and that will also change the budget cycle. That will offer opposition members more clarity on public accounts. It will also offer more clarity to businesses and organizations who receive federal funds. It will help them plan. It will also help to plan for construction season. Everyone will win with this new plan. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, one day after the Prime Minister's visit to the White House, the U.S. Commerce Secretary has announced that there will be no relief
Come on.
tariffs for finished automobiles in Canada. This after 700 Oshawa GM workers lost their jobs and GM sent $4 billion to the U.S. And I
apologize for interrupting the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, but apparently the interpretation is not working, so I'll allow them. Is it back on?
Start from the top.
C'est bon? It's good? So from the top, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition from the top.
One day after the Prime Minister met at the White House, promising that he would fight for Canadian workers, we learned from the U.S. Commerce Secretary that there will be no relief for Canadian finished automobiles. This after 700 Oshawa GM workers lost their jobs with $4 billion of GM money going to the U.S. 900 CAMI workers in Ingersoll losing their jobs with those jobs going to the U.S. and 150 workers at Stellantis being sent home while $8 billion of Stellantis money goes to the U.S. The Prime Minister failed to stand up for auto workers yesterday. Will he do so now?
Okay, I'm just curious to see how deep in the cabinet roster, which is very shallow, but we'll see who gets up to answer this. Because you know Carney and all his close backbenchers got to escape long before this. I'm curious why Pierre is even up here now. What's going on? Listen.
Okay. The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Watch your pressure.
Let's see how this goes.
Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to report that the Prime Minister and the President had a very productive discussion yesterday on steel, on aluminum, on energy for the benefit of the Canadian economy, and on auto. I remind my colleague of the President's words. We want Canada to do well making cars, so we will get there. Mr. Speaker, I encourage the Leader of the Opposition to take a look at even Ford Canada in my riding of Oakville and to realize that on this side of the House we are building.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Prime Minister refused to stand up for our auto workers, and today he refuses to stand up for our auto workers. How can he sit right there while the U.S. Commerce Secretary just came out and said the 25% tariffs will stay in place? Despite the Prime Minister's concession after concession, he backed down on counter tariffs, back down on the DST. Yesterday offered $1 trillion of Canadian investment money, and still he can't win anything from our auto workers. What does he say to those thousands of auto workers that are out of work because of his weakness?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what we have at this point with the United States for the auto sector is the lowest tariff in the world, less than 10%, lower than Europe, lower than Korea, lower than Japan. We have the lowest tariff, and we are still negotiating because, as the President said yesterday, the Prime Minister of Canada is a tough negotiator. We will get a great deal.
Mr. Speaker, give me $1 trillion and even I will say something nice about this. Oh, my God. How much is it going to cost to pay Canadian investment dollars to flatter this Prime Minister's ego? Yep. It would make you laugh if it didn't make you cry, Mr. Speaker. But for the workers in Ingersoll, in Windsor, and in Oshawa who have lost their jobs after the Prime Minister promised to protect them, how will they ever trust this Prime Minister again after he betrayed them?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs. Just a moment. The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, one thing that Canadians know from Ingersoll to Windsor to Oakville to Oshawa is that on this side of the House, we will not let Canadians down. We have the strategic fund putting billions of dollars to support auto workers and the auto sector. We are supporting the agri-food business, and we will always be there for Canadian workers as well, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we're about diversifying supply chains and supporting Canadians while we get the best deal possible for this country.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
It's really pathetic that the Prime Minister will not stand up for auto workers in this House of Commons, just like he refused to stand up for them yesterday. We have thousands of auto workers who have lost their jobs since this Prime Minister promised to protect them. These families are sitting around their tables wondering what is going to happen to them. They are among the 86,000 Canadians who've lost their jobs, leading to the second highest unemployment of any country in the G7. We have record lineups at food banks, and this Prime Minister is giving away $1 trillion investment dollars to the U.S. while people here can't even pay their bills. Why won't he stand up now?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, we will take no lessons from the Conservatives on standing up for Canadian businesses and Canadian workers. Every opportunity that they have to vote in favor of Canadians, whether it's pharmacare, whether it's...
All right, guys, I think we're going to have to stick a fork or a big anything in that mouth to shut Anita Anand up. Who is worse to listen to than Anita Anand? There's a list of people that could be comparable to how annoying that wretched whore's voice is, but not many people are actually worse. Like, we've got little bitch FPC, your Prime Minister Mark Carney, who's a loser, like, liar, con man, snake oil salesman that was only sent in here with the aid of his media that is paid for by your tax dollars to corrupt other voters' mind. People that don't even watch the news. That's who they were messing with. People that really have no investment except for the fact that they're screwing over your kids and your grandkids' futures. Like, that is how it goes. People can try to swing it some other way. It's good versus evil. This isn't liberal versus right wing versus left wing. This is something different. This is evil versus good. And right now, evil has a huge margin of just significant ground that they're winning. And I don't want to admit that that's happening, but man, it is what is happening. Is it all a coincidence that housing, immigration, grocery prices, inflation, banking in general, any kind of way to get a mortgage, any kind of way to get a first-time goddamn job if you're a kid, Like, I experienced that in my mid-40s, and I'm like, I'm being wiped out right here in my government workplace where I've spent 20 goddamn years. But they hire some schmuck kid, whoever, like, nothing against that schmuck kid, but they're not from here. They don't know anything about it, but they get pushed ahead saying that they're more eligible for that job, but they on paper are so not, because it sounds like sour grapes. It's not that. It really isn't. I left that shit. I went and I did this, and thank goodness I did, because a lot of those people would be not around anymore if I stayed there, and they are still around because I've left. Well, think about if I think about those people some more, how long they'll be around. Because they really did burn years off my ass for some bullshit political propaganda to suck their boss's ass. That's all they do. These corporate fucks, that's all they do. They're all so into saying what is better for the greater good, but it's only good for them. The one and only. And until we start realizing that and making changes on our own, and I don't know what those changes would entail. It would probably entail having a lot less of them and more of us making the decisions, but I don't really know how to get there. I'm not that thoughtful. Canadian federal politics has gotten up to me this week. It sure has. Aaron, Canadian loony, trying to keep it light most of the time, but never forget for a second, guys, these clowns that are presenting themselves as incompetent and incapable, like Anita Anand, we can go through a list. FPC, MP Stephen McKinnon, FPC, I think we just said FPC, Melanie Jolie, Gary-Anna Sangre, Sean Fraser. These losers aren't that stupid. They seem stupid, they look stupid, sound stupid, but they're not. They're duping you into thinking that you'll call them incompetent as they screw you over into what Mark Carney's master plan is. And that's Brookfield's WEF, China Republic. Like, they just don't want what was Western democracy to succeed. And it would seem by now the only one left standing on its own is the United States. And I know a lot of people have bad feelings about Donald Trump. I don't think many of them are watching this channel if you have bad feelings towards Trump. He saved the United States from what everybody else is diving head forward into. It's a weird thing because I don't think they even have half of the population's vote, but the obnoxious, retarded part of our voting body does have, they vote and they've got a loud voice. And I guess maybe they've got more money floating around because they haven't been the ones facing all of the issues that this government and this change in democracy is having. Again, I don't want to seem too wound up, but man, oh man, I am fired up because, like, they're trying to screw us over and they won't be done until they have every piece of your Canadian culture sucked out of your bones and your head convinced that these are Muslim values, these are Canadian values. That cocksucker is going to say it right at the end of this because I'm going to put it on there. They are duplicitous and they mean to ruin you. They mean to ruin everyone's future, including their own. That is the funniest part about these cocksucking whores. they don't even see the forest for the trees because they're going to run out of space. Anita Anand makes me sick to my stomach, and I've been looking at that picture for about 5 minutes now. I'm going to go and throw up. Melanie Jolie, Francois Philippe Champagne, Dominique LeBlanc, Stephen Guilbeault, all you losers can go to hell. I hope that karma catches you before I do, because karma will probably be more pleasant than I will. I'm sick of this shit. You've been doing it to the country under this guise of the best thing for everybody, green zero, like, or net zero, whatever, all that bullshit is. And that's bullshit. That's a business trick to make your Brookfield company more valuable. And this accelerated in 2019 when the UN signed up with the WEF to push ahead this globalist agenda that is now headed by the UN, which everybody thinks is like all the countries that get together, but it's not. Now they're like with the WEF, which is certainly nothing to do with countries. It's just corporations that have the most money. You can only get in there if you make billions of dollars. And they've sold out everybody to 17 world initiatives that sound so nice, like end of poverty, end of starvation, and gender rights, equality, all that, all the bullshit that we've had for about 30 years in any developed nation, but they're trying to sell it to us like it's a new thing. I can't go on much more. I'm very frustrated. I don't know if I can do this live stuff too much longer because I have pretty serious control over what I say and do in my regular videos, but I by now don't have a lot of control over what I'm going to say and do in these live videos because I'm so aware and irate at what is going down, and there are screwing the good people. There's some bad people, I'm sure, that are, getting by just fine or whatever, but they are hammering the good people here, and changing it into some kind of cesspool that it didn't used to be. Like crime in your community, even here, I live very rural, and I'm thankful for that. But my car was broken into 3 times last month. I lived in Halifax for 20 years, and my car was broken into 3 times over 20 years. I've been here for 12 months, and the same amount of trouble. Not that that's even comparable. Anyways, just fed up, guys. I'm sick of these liberals. Someone is going to have to warn the federal government that they're daring to trip into waters where they are going to have to confiscate guns unless they want people to start protecting themselves from the likes of these politicians. That's the way I see it. I don't know what other way it could go. I don't even own a gun, but man, I can understand why they're looking to protect themselves from every Canadian citizen that is a critical thinker that has mind to continue being a critical thinker in the future. Because they're trying to take every dime and drop of that away, and they're presenting it as some kind of gift to you. They're ripping you away from your rights, if you ever had any. I don't know about that. This might just be the transition, but it'd be hard to sit here and think I didn't give my friends the heads up that this government is coming to fuck you over, and they're going to steal away every fucking right at the cost of your tax dollars. It's a lot. We're out. Aaron, Canadian Looney, thank you for watching. We'll catch you in the next video, if there is one.